Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on cyber insurance. Really excited about this topic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We have an incredible guest speaker in the house, the virtual house, and we really appreciate you being here. So before I introduce today's speakers and guests, I just want to remind everybody, for those of you who've never used this platform before, there is a little control panel on your screen that allows you to raise your virtual hand and let us know that you have a question or comment. And throughout the webinar, or more likely at the end, we'll stop and we would love to hear and answer all your questions. I'll unmute you and give you an opportunity to ask them live with us. So please let us know you have them, enter them into the questions box or use the little raise hand button and we'll get to you before the end of the afternoon, the event, hopefully. So without further ado, today's webinar, like I said, is all about cyber insurance, why you need it, why it's important, the ins and outs, what happens when there's a cyber attack, and related ideas. So super relevant, super important. So with us today, we're lucky enough to have Ian Linder. Ian is a property and casualty insurance advisor, specializing in construction, real estate, and technology, but really with a diverse background. He's an excellent networker and just a great person to speak about cyber insurance with his experience with BNC Agency. They're a local insurance brokerage, and he'll tell you more about that and get into some of the nitty-gritties, but we're really excited to have him. Thank you for being here, Ian.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have Norman and Jeffrey from RCS Professional who are hosting today's webinar. Jeffrey is our CEO. We've been around since 1999, so he's been doing this longer than I've been an adult. We're happy to have him share his words of wisdom about the topic, as well as Norman, who's been with RCS since its inception and is also a very well-versed in technology and how cybersecurity and insurance intersects with that. So without further ado, I'll pass the virtual mic over to Norman and Jeffrey, and take it away, guys.
Thanks, Esther.
Thank you, Esther. Hey, Ian, how's it going?
Very well. It's an honor to be working with you guys, and I hope we can give our audience something to remember today.
I think we will.
I think we will. Cyber insurance, this is a big one. We get these questionnaires all the time, and it's really gone from like people not even knowing what cyber insurance is to it being one of the more important bits of insurance at this point.
Yeah, totally. I think what we're finding now is, like, I know when we filled out our cyber insurance questionnaire, a few years back, like, the form was just irrelevant to the real world, right? And now we have these things are actually happening. There's wire frauds, there's cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, and now finally the insurers are asking questions that are actually like relevant to help protect the client, right?
Yes.
It actually makes sense finally, right? So it's become a big thing. And one trend that we're noticing now is all of our clients are suddenly asking us to fill out these questionnaires for them, whereas like a couple of years ago and before, it wasn't even a thing, right?
Yeah. They would get the questionnaire. Maybe they would tell us to fill it out.
Right.
If we did, there wasn't any pushback by the insurance company at all.
Right. And the reality behind that is the criminals are succeeding in many ways. So the cyber insurance carriers need to protect themselves better, need their clients to protect themselves better to minimize their risk on the carrier side and on the claim side, right? So it's a very relevant topic. We're excited to talk about. We want to step you into what actually happens. I mean, when we speak to our clients, right, this is the last line of defense, right? We want them to have things like two-factor authentication, antivirus, endpoint detection response, X, Y, Z. There's so many things that you could get. But then the one thing at the end of that checklist is, if it all doesn't work out for whatever reason, because those criminals were that good, you need to have insurance.
Right. You need to have that last line of defense, that last backup.
Okay.
But before we go forward, Ian, I wanted to hear about BNC and you, because, well, you're going to be the expert on this panel.
Of course. Thank you for having me, guys. So I've been with BNC for 5 years now, and even longer than that. I actually interned with them while I was in college. So very passionate about insurance. Just a bit about BNC's background. They've always been known for working with construction and real estate. But as we've seen the technology sector expand, which is undeniable, we've had no choice but to expand into the cyber vertical and the technology vertical. And you know, like we see this a lot in the insurance industry, where anytime there's a new product, and we can say for sure that cyber is, if not the most cutting edge, you know, in terms of its growth. More and more companies are looking for cyber policies than really any other product. So we've seen it kind of develop and expand, and we've seen how carriers have reacted to that. And like you said, you know, years ago, it was just kind of a short form application, kind of a small checklist. And that's something common we see, because carriers are trying to sell a product. They're trying to attract businesses and get them in the door. But over time, claims happen, you know, costs develop on the carrier side, and they have no choice but to start to ask more questions, to get more protective over the coverages that they're offering. So now we get to the point today where it's become more difficult to acquire those coverages, and you're seeing a lot more requirements and a lot more questions and due diligence being taken by these underwriters before they'll offer a quote.
Yeah. I actually read an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday about like that Sunnyside, Florida building that fell down, and they're making all like the building owners like go through crazy like questionnaires and engineering questions and stuff like that. So similar that's happening to us over here, because, you know, incidents are happening and claims are being made, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about some of those incidents. What are the things that are going on out there?
Well, things that we see or we hear about, or clients coming up to us. One of them, I'd say the two most popular ones, right, are wire scams. So, which happens in a few ways, and you know more than me, but you know, fraudulent wires going out and ransomware attacks. Two different things there going on in terms of what's happening, but one of them is, you know, your bookkeeper, your controller, your CFO thinks they're getting an email from the owner saying, hey, pay these guys, we owe them some money, we need to get that, you know, product in here ASAP. Money goes out, and then it's too late, you can't recover it, right? That's one.
Yeah, yes.
And then the other one that we see a lot of, and you can tell me if I'm missing any, the other one that we see a lot of is just the crippling ransomware attack, where all of your systems are not able to function and you literally can't do business, right?
Yeah.
Is there any more? Did I miss any?
Those are really the two big ones. And you see that first one, the wire scam ones, we've seen that in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
We've seen it looks like an email that comes from the owner that says, hey, I need you to wire this to somebody.
Or a vendor.
But then we see it, we also see it in the other way, where a hacker will watch a conversation going back and forth. So they're in somebody's email and they're watching a conversation go back and forth. And then when they see the time is right for them to insert themselves into the conversation, as in that conversation just got around to talking about people getting paid, they'll then take over that conversation and be one side of that conversation. So it'll sound like me and our vendor going back and forth. And then at some point, they'll take over. In this case, they were in my account watching the whole thing, and the vendor says, okay, great, time to pay me. At that point, they insert themselves into the conversation and really take over my email, and they start replying to the vendor. And so, did I get that right? Maybe the other way around. So that when it comes time for, hey, where's this money going? The hacker says it's going right here. And you know what? It goes to the hacker and not to where it's supposed to go.
Right. And that's like the real scary one, because they're like sitting in your mailbox. You don't even know how long they've been there. They're gathering all this intelligence, and then like they just, when the time is right, they just
those are big
you.
numbers.
Yeah.
Those are big numbers.
And that's not like it's a letter is off. Some users are sophisticated and savvy enough to detect that. That's like the emails coming from the mailbox of the employee in the company. There's no doubting it. And they're able to hide the replies through advanced, you know, Outlook or Gmail forwarding rules, or move things into mailboxes as they come in. So it's very sly and it's very effective.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And then the other one, I don't know if anybody's out there has been through a ransomware attack. It's brutal. It's crippling. Like, so you suddenly can't do anything. You can't do business. The servers don't work. Your files are nowhere. You can't do anything. And then you've got the ransomware, the hacker saying, yeah, sure, I'll get you back online. You just give me some Bitcoin
Right.
and I got you.
Right. And then there's just to show the level of, like, even though like clients are protected, they have their backups, everything is protected, but then it just becomes a time is of the essence situation, right? Like, yes, your backups are there. Yes, you'll have your data in a couple of days and your systems are working. But what if you're a business that your customers can't wait a day or miss a shipment or something like that? That's why you read in the paper all the time that these huge companies, these are not small companies that don't have sophisticated IT. These are huge companies and they're outright paying millions and millions of dollars to these evil actors, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's crazy. And we've spoken about ways to protect yourself from preventing those sorts of things, and you could look at our YouTube channel on that. But here we're talking about specifically where cyber insurance fits in, right?
Right. So you've gotten all your systems in, check, and you've made, well, maybe you didn't have all your systems in check and that's the way they got in, but somehow a hacker's gotten in and something bad has happened. And now this is when we need Ian, because this is when the cyber insurance company is going to step in.
Yeah, a lot of great points that I'm hearing from you guys, and it definitely does perfectly reflect what I'm seeing on our side, both with our clients and on the carrier side. Something that I think a lot of people need to hear is we think about what is happening once there has been a cyber attack, but what carriers are trying to communicate with us as brokers so that we can, as advisors, advise our clients, is that they prefer to be as proactive as possible. They prefer the earlier that they can get involved, the better. So even before there's a cyber event, a data breach event, a carrier will want to will have resources where they can get into your system, where they have methods where they can assess the vulnerabilities in your network and in your system, and kind of give you a report and an understanding. And obviously, a lot of those services probably overlap with something like the services of RCS professionals, but they are trying to cover their backsides because their worst nightmare is hearing, okay, we've had whether it's a ransomware event and we've already paid out the ransom, or you get a fraudulent email and one of your employees thinks that they are making a payment to somebody within the organization or one of the vendors of the company. So a carrier is thinking, we want to hear about this as soon as possible so that we can get involved and try to remediate, rather than, and obviously in these situations, when a client is acting in good faith and they made an honest mistake, and you get to the point where, okay, the financial loss has already occurred, that's what the coverage is for. There is coverage. Those things are fully covered, but a big part of the cost of what a company is paying for that cyber insurance premium is to have that front end protection so that we can limit the claims on the back end. Because although there is full coverage, when you have a big claim, it's going to hurt it could hurt your company for years and years, because that claim is going to remain on your history. Every time you're going to apply for coverage, a carrier is going to see that. So, we all know insurance, we have it for a reason, and we're protected in the event of a claim, but still proactive and early action is better than reactive.
Okay, so let's get into that. Let's get into what is cyber insurance? What are we talking about here?
What does it cover? What is it? Why? Yeah, just get into that.
Of course. So keeping it simple, cyber helps protect the business in the event of a data breach, network security failure, or another cyber threat. and also protects against risks related to information technology, infrastructure, and activities. So that I said a lot, but really how we can think about a cyber insurance policy and how it responds is first-party coverage and third-party coverage. So, and when we're talking about first-party coverage, we're think about, okay, I'm the president of XYZ company. I have a cyber policy and I've been hit with a data breach. I need this first party coverage to make my own business whole again, to repair my system and to make it so that I can get my business back up and running, so that I can continue to be profitable, which is what a business is for. So getting into first party coverages, fraud and theft is a major coverage. We think about that as email phishing, when you receive a fraudulent email, social engineering, when somebody fools you into thinking that they are somebody who they are not, so that you will send them money or give them access to a system like a password. Business interruption is very important, and you guys touched on that. What happens when my system is down and now I can't service my clients, I can't run my business? So a cyber policy on a first party basis will pay for your loss of income during the time where your system is down and you're unable to run your business. And not only does it cover business interruption, but there's something called dependent business interruption. So let's say that your company is dependent on a third-party network to be up and running. Let's say that network is down, and now I can't run my business because I'm dependent on another system. That will actually be covered just as if
You're
your
saying
own
if a third
business
party was interrupted because of a cyber attack?
Yes.
That's
So
interesting. I didn't know that one.
one of our vendors, or like an EDI provider or something like that, if they get hacked and they can't process EDI, which for a lot of our clients in wholesale and distribution is huge, you're saying a cyber policy can, obviously depending on the policy, safeguard and protect the insured from that? Is that what you're saying?
So what I'm saying is the first named insured on the policy. So we have coverage for our company, and our company is dependent on another system being up and running. So if our income is dependent on another system being up and running and that system is down, our loss of income will be protected until that system is back up and running, essentially.
Got it.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So I mean, you went over a lot there. Let me just throw out some questions, and you could just yes, no, or elaborate, right? If you send a wire accidentally, someone in your firm, and you know, the wire goes out, can I call my insurance company, and will they cover me for the wire having gone out?
Yes.
By accident, I mean, as because a hacker convinced you to do it.
Yeah, they fell for it. You fall
Okay,
for
you
it.
fall for it.
Right.
Go.
Exactly. The cost of, so the full amount that you've actually sent to that hacker would be covered. So your carrier is going to look into it. They're going to investigate, and when they find that you know, first of all, they're always going to look into ways that they can recover that. You know, obviously it can be very difficult to recover a payment to a hacker once you've already sent it. But that full payment that you've sent is covered fully under your policy, obviously up to the limits in the policy.
And there's deductibles, I'm assuming, or depends on the policy. What do you find?
Yes. So there are deductibles depending on the policy. When we're talking about that type of claim, the deductible would be a dollar amount. It could be $1,000. It could be $5,000. That is a function of, you know, me as a policyholder, as the owner of this business, how much risk are we willing to take on?
Right.
That's something that is an important conversation to have with your insurance advisor, because oftentimes it can be worth it to go with a higher deductible
Right.
if that's a risk that your company is willing to take. And that takes into account, let's say you're a company, you've had exceptional claims history, and you're very confident that that's a risk you're willing to take. Or if that increase in a deductible, taking a higher deductible,
Right.
has an effect on the premium to where, okay, we're going to save X amount of dollars in premium by raising our deductible.
Okay. So you can get the money back via the policy, and there's deductibles and limits depending. So what about like a lot of times when something like that, God forbid, happens, IT is called upon to basically start scanning systems, antivirus check, this, that, everything to make sure that at least it's not going to happen again, or how they got in, forensics, whatever you want to call it. Will they cover the IT vendor's bill?
Yes, they will cover the cost of the forensic work, the investigation, all the crisis management. Obviously there is coverage for to make you whole, and when I say that, I mean any financial loss that's been sustained. But the coverage also includes stuff for forensic work and looking into and all the expenses that pertain to a carrier. And these carriers, they have their own largely either a carrier will have their own forensics team, investigative team, or they might outsource it to
Right.
A cyber firm to do it on their behalf. But all that stuff is covered, aside from just, hey, we had to make this $100,000 payment, or else they were going to shut down our system, so we made the payment, or we fraudulently sent money because we thought that was one of our vendors, or a payment we were making to one of our employees.
What if I'm just throwing different things out there. What if I'm an accounting firm, and our tax return software, it's April 15th, caught ransomware, nothing works, and as a result, I filed my client's return late, and he sues me? Will it cover my legal expenses?
So say that again. I'm sorry.
I caused one of my clients to be in breach of something. So let's say they filed a tax return late. I'm giving an example. I don't even know if that applies, right? And I couldn't process his tax return in a timely manner because I got a ransomware attack as the accountant. And he sues me. Will insurance cover my legal representation on that? Does it do anything like that? I'm curious.
Yes. So if you were sued because of a data breach, then it's going to be covered for sure.
Okay, so if I was holding a whole bunch of credit card numbers and those got out, and someone their credit took a hit and they sued me because of that, I'm covered?
Yes. So under third-party coverages, it's known as data privacy and network security liability. So if you're a company that's responsible for, so if you hold any type of sensitive data for your customers, and this ties into a common misconception. A lot of companies think, I'm not a tech company. We might not even have a website. But if you even collect credit card payments, and you have any type of payment information on file, it could be, if you're in the medical field, it could be medical records. When you hold that sensitive data, you're responsible for protecting that sensitive data for your clients. So when they sue you because you were unable to protect their sensitive data from getting out there in the open, that suit is covered.
Got it. And
Right, so you
go ahead.
mentioned also extortion in that if I have to, if there's a ransomware attack and I have to deal with a hacker, do you guys step in and do that?
So that's actually something that a lot of people don't know about these carriers, is that they have their forensics teams prefer, and this goes into what I said before about preferring to be proactive versus reactive. As soon as you, let's say you're being extorted, and there are hackers that have shut down your system and they're holding you hostage. A company is actually going to prefer to get involved as soon as possible before you've made the payment. They don't want you to make the decision themselves. They'd rather have their forensic team get involved as soon as possible. And they go into full-on crisis management mode to determine, okay, hey, do we have any recourse here? Are we able to take back control of our system to the point where no payment has to be made, no ransom payment has to be made in the first place? So obviously these carriers, they understand that your job is to run your business. Your job is not to determine, what is the best course of action when hackers have a metaphorical gun to your head. So they have all the resources in place to get involved and to help make the decision. And sometimes the only way is to, and they will determine the best course of action is to make the ransom payment. And in that case, the payment itself would be covered, and they would have, and then from there on out, the next course of action would be on the carrier. The carrier would look to regain control of your system and to do all the investigative and forensic work to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again and that we're protected in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
what I've heard is if
Yeah.
you get hacked, the first two calls you better be making are IT, insurance.
Yeah, like I was once pulled into an incident on a ransomware attack where their systems were crippled, and I was pretty amazed. We did call the insurance carrier, and the reps basically said, like, we'll get on the horn with the hackers. We have intelligence on who's legit, where they're from, based on, IP and this. They like the amount.
Oh, they recognize the hackers.
No, they have like these groups of geniuses who deal with this all day, and they know like what countries it's from, which hacker group it is, how reputable they are. Are they
reputable hacker group? I like that. Go on.
Are they gonna live to their word and actually give you your files back and your data back, or are they just fraudulent and then you're gonna get screwed? So they were willing to take the front line on that, negotiating it, determining the best course of action, like Ian was saying. And I got to tell you, like, the fact that they were on the team was like so like
relieving.
I mean, you still got to get them up and running ASAP. The pressure's on, but you have another guy in your corner to basically like help you get through that situation, a specialist, and they're experienced with the thing, right?
Yeah. And another thing I will add to that, not to cut you guys off, but once the incident has been taken care of, and okay, we're out of the woods, there's still laws that have to be adhered to when it comes to notifying your customers about certain things, and also things like credit monitoring are covered. Those type of expenses in terms of monitoring the situation after the incident has happened.
Okay, so this is great. So not only are they going to step in with specialists who know what to do and how to deal with whomever is, hacking, they will pay for whatever, as in, who knows, there's a ransom, I don't know, I got sued, who knows, they got all of that. They're going to take care of, they're going to take care of monitoring, informing the clients, and they're going to take care of, what was the last one? Oh, monitoring my credit.
Credit monitoring, correct.
Back in here.
Yeah, we're trying out a new camera. I guess we got surprised on that one.
Is this a new feature?
Yeah.
We'll get this right.
Actually,
Oh,
we do
yeah.
have a bunch of questions coming in. Norman, can we stop for a bit for some questions?
Yeah, sure. I got to fix the camera anyway. Because right
Awesome.
now it's all about me.
Yeah, we're gonna make this an opportune moment. So Norbert, I'm gonna come over to you because it looks like you have some great questions. Give me a moment here and I'll unmute you, and then you can go ahead when you're ready and unmute yourself by clicking the little microphone icon if you see it on your control panel, and we would love to hear your questions live. Norbert, feel free to unmute yourself where I can read your questions if not, but I show you as self-muted. All right, I'll go ahead and read them, but if you hear us, feel free to pop on. So 2 questions from Norbert. The first is, what is put in place with the carrier's tools causing a supply chain breach due to an issue with their installed tools? I'm not sure
Read
if that
that
needs,
one again.
what was that?
Read that again.
Sure. What is put in place with the carrier's tools causing a supply chain breach due to an issue with their installed tools?
Installed what?
Tools.
Tools.
Tool.
Is that like a
Not
SolarWinds kind of thing? I don't even know.
I'm not sure what the question, what the question is.
Let me actually read the next question. Maybe it is connected. I'm not sure. What if
Okay.
it's determined a third party was interrupted due to state-sponsored attack? Is it still covered?
Oh, I like this. Okay, this is very pertinent in the news right now. Russia is apparently, as part of the Ukraine offensive, doing a whole bunch of cyber attacks. I think this is what you're saying about a state-sponsored attack, and that is cyber insurance going to cover that sort of attack? Like, where is cyber insurance on this?
That's a great question. And a cyber insurance policy, like most, if not all other insurance policies, they specifically exclude acts of war. So generally, when these types of things happen, this falls back on more government intervention rather than the private insurance industry. So the acts of war are specifically excluded by cyber insurance policies generally.
How do they make the distinction?
I'm
Like,
sorry?
if I got hacked today, right, and it was the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. If I got hacked today, and how would they know that that was a state-sponsored thing due to the war, as opposed to just a regular hack?
That would come down to the investigative teams, involved with the cyber insurance carrier to determine that. And a lot of times the claims process will take a long time to play out, but obviously they have very intelligent people and resources in place to be able to uncover where these hacks are coming from, and if it is a state-sponsored attack. So that falls under their jurisdiction.
I have a question back to the ransomware one, where they are negotiating and making the payment. If I'm a firm that got hit with ransomware and it ends up that they agree the best thing to do is to pay the ransom, will they pay it, or do I have to pay it and get reimbursed? Because that could be a big cash flow issue.
Yeah, and in relation to that, because you just mentioned it, how long does it take for me to get paid for whatever I'm going to get paid out from the insurance company?
So it depends on the situation. I can't say exactly how long it will take to get paid, but the carrier will pay it themselves oftentimes, but we've also seen scenarios where the client will pay it and the carrier will reimburse. So it goes both ways.
Actually have lots of questions coming in, so let's see if we can breeze through these. Lots and lots of questions. Somebody asked, which government agency determines if it's an act of war or a terrorist attack? I'm not sure if you touched on that yet, or if you know even. Ultimately, maybe it's a comment. Ultimately, only a government agency can declare a state-sponsored attack, not a carrier. We know people who haven't been paid yet from the Kaseya ransomware attack. Let me see who else here. So I hope I pronounced your name right, Rami. I'm going to unmute you now to ask your question. All right. It looks like you're self-muted, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a mic.
Yes, sure, I did. I just did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, hello, how are you? I was just asking because you're stating so many covers that the insurance covers legal expenses, cyber liability insurance, and many other covers as business interruption and a third-party business interruption, and so on. So all those coverages, can we know under which cover does it fall under the policy? You said many things that are covered, but you didn't state the cover, under which cover does it fall?
Are there
Right.
differences?
So
Yeah.
different carriers will have their own names for specific coverages,
Okay.
but generally it will fall under fraud and theft, business interruption, loss of data and restoration, cyber extortion, forensic and investigative work, and then we have the coverages like customer notification and credit monitoring. That's generally the subsections that it can fall into. But again, different carriers will have different names for those coverages specifically.
That's
Okay,
great.
thank you so much.
And those are on a first party basis. That is, those are the coverages that are involved with I am the policyholder making my business whole. That's before we even get into I'm a company that is responsible for protecting another company's system, and when their system is attacked and they're going to sue me, and the lawsuits and the legal expenses, that's all third-party coverages.
Yes, and you were talking about when my system is dependent on another system to work upon, and there's a business interruption loss due to a data breach on the other system. Under which cover does this claim go under?
So that's what we call dependent business interruption.
Okay. Okay.
And this is all under the umbrella of cyber insurance?
Yes. This is
Right.
all on a single product that can be tailored to each business's individual needs.
Gotcha. And you mentioned third-party coverages just now. So I think until now we've only spoken first party.
Right. So when we're talking about third party, we're talking about not every company needs this, but companies like IT consultants, like RCS Professional Services, software developers, app developers, network and security consultants, website designers, or web hosting businesses. These are the types of companies that need the third-party coverages when they are responsible and their business involves safeguarding and protecting another business's sensitive data and their network. So the main coverage here is data privacy and network security liability. So that is the major coverage that's going to come into play. They're going to respond when you've been sued by a third party because their sensitive information and their system has been breached, and you were responsible for protecting that information. So not only does that include paying the damages that a judge deems are awardable to the third party, but also the attorney fees. If a settlement is made, the full cost of the settlement, and then it extends also to regulatory fines and penalties. So if anybody is familiar, with has done business over in Europe, Europe has their own set of very stringent laws that are much different than the United States. So any regulatory and fines and penalties that your company is responsible for by failing to protect sensitive data from a third party, all those fines and penalties are covered. So that's good to know. And then lastly, media liability is an important coverage to remember as well. So if your company is sued because we publish some sort of media online, or it could be a website, it could be a picture, it could be an article, and you're sued whether it's copyright infringement or because we think that whatever media you've posted is damaging to us, those suits, just as well as the legal defense, the same as discussed before, attorney fees, settlements, judgments, those are all covered under the realm of media liability.
Okay.
have-
Esther, do you want to jump in on with another question?
Yeah, we have actually, I want to
Sorry,
get to.
did that answer that question, that question we just had? I think it did.
Yeah, and also I
Okay,
just
good.
want to.
Let's move on.
Thanks, Ian. I guess that would also be the reason that somebody would engage with you, is to help them figure out what they need, make sure they're not getting too much coverage, but also that they're getting enough and getting the right coverage. So it's one of the reasons we're glad to have you. Next up is Wanda. Wanda's got a great question. We're going to go to Wanda and then Jay and then Richard and try to get through as many as possible. So
Okay.
Wanda, I unmuted you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if we're not doing a really good job of keeping our systems up to date, like keeping things patched, making sure that we don't have any obsolete operating systems running around and we get hacked, but we have insurance. How's that going to play out?
I'm glad you asked that question, Wanda. Norman and Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to add or before I jump in?
No, you could take it first.
Okay, yeah,
Sure.
jump right in.
Sure. So when you're applying for cyber liability insurance, as basically a company, an insurance carrier has the right to require that you have certain things in place, and it is your duty as the insured to, in good faith, to completely notify, to answer the carrier's questions and to tell them what kind of protections you have in place and what you've done. As long as you have answered the carrier's questions in good faith, it's their duty. I mean, and every year when your insurance policy comes up for renewal, they have the opportunity to say, hey, we're not going to renew your policy unless you've done X, Y, and Z, unless you've updated your operating systems to newer operating systems, and unless you put certain protections in place. As long as you as the client are operating in good faith and have answered all of the carrier's questions and filled out applications in good faith, they're going to cover you when it comes time for a claim. Obviously, we have seen in the past where a carrier neglected to ask the right questions, or they didn't realize that one of their insureds maybe didn't have the right protections in place. But it's never going to be, they can't deny the claim unless you've misrepresented on your applications and in their questions to you.
So let me just kind of make sure I'm on the same page with you on this. So our clients get questionnaires for cyber insurance all the time. Anyone can pretty much lie on the application technically, right? And get insurance bound to them. So what you're saying is if you didn't fill out the application in good faith and an incident happens and they asked you a question saying, is two-factor authentication enabled on all your systems? And you said yes when it was really no. If an incident happens, they could deny that claim?
Yes, the carrier does reserve the right to deny a claim on the grounds of misrepresentation. For sure.
So you want to, obviously everyone should be telling the truth, but you want to make sure you're filling out the forms accurately, right? And even some questions, they're not so easy to answer. Sometimes you have to call your professional, be it IT, legal, whatever it may be. And what we're noticing on our end is the questionnaires are getting a lot more thorough and specific. And then it's bringing our clients into a better place ultimately, because it's like they're realizing, when we tell them you need this or that because this and this could happen, half of them say, yeah,
Fine, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes.
And then the other ones will say like, okay, I trust you implicitly, do it. And then now when the insurance carrier is also coming to it and say, look, we're not going to give you a policy. Like, are you starting to see like, look, we're not going to give you a policy because you said no and no to this question? Are you starting to see more denials?
Yes, they want to know that you have certain things in place. So, there's a lot of carriers out there that are offering cyber liability insurance, and it's very easy for them to say, hey, you're not the ideal client for us. We're not going to stick our necks out. We're not going to potentially pay out millions of dollars for a company that they do not assess to be a quality risk from their standpoint. So
Got it.
we're seeing a lot more thorough questions being asked, endpoint detection response, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, all the above. And above that, they want to know even, do you have an IT company like RCS Professional Services that is overseeing your network and monitoring that? Do you have professionals, whether it's an outsourced company, or do you have IT professionals on your payroll that are monitoring these things?
And back to the question, which was, okay, let's assume that you did answer the questionnaire correctly and an incident happened. So she had asked, like, what if we were lax on patching, or we have outdated Windows systems or Mac, whatever it may be, and the cyber attack was a result of one of those deficiencies, will they cover it? And I think the answer is yes, as long as you filled out the application accurately, right?
Yes, well, and it varies by carrier because that depends on what exactly the contingencies were when you were applying for insurance. So if they had a contingency where it's required that you uphold your end of the bargain, you make sure things are up to date, and you make sure you have protections in place. If it comes time to the claim and it's determined that you didn't do those things, they definitely reserve the right to deny claims.
So if on the questionnaire it said, do you patch your systems regularly, meaning Windows gets updated on a regular monthly basis with the latest security updates, and an incident happens and forensics goes in and they're like, this system hasn't been patched in 4 years, they could deny the claim then?
Technically, yes. Generally, we see more often the carriers honoring the claim and then choosing to get off the policy at renewal and non-renew you, rather than if it's kind of a gray area, like do you regularly do this? It's not as black and white as, okay, it is a contingency that you must every 6 months perform tests. Let's say, just throwing just as an example. So generally, if it's a gray area, usually carriers will honor it in good faith, but don't expect them to renew the policy coming forward. And in the future, it will be difficult. You can almost always you can expect price increases, and premium increases at renewal, and any carrier that you're applying for coverage after that, they're going to request to see claims history. So they're going to see, okay, a year ago, 2 years ago, it could be even 4 years ago. Sometimes they request 5 years to 7 years of loss history. So this is something to pay attention to, because it's not just going to affect you in this one policy term. It could affect you for years to come, until you're able to prove to carriers that you are worthy of them offering the best coverage and price to your company.
We've seen with the whole questionnaire thing, we watched it happen. I mean, a few years ago, we used to get those questionnaires and we would answer it. I mean, I'm always answering it in the, in what's true.
Right.
But there were some glaring holes that we were saying, yeah, that glaring hole exists, and they would write the policy anyway.
Right. And
that's no longer. Now the questions are more specific.
Right.
And by the way, those questions are great. They're like a good guide on how to do
Right.
security and IT. It's
Right.
great. They have all the things that like we've been telling our clients forever. It's all now on the questionnaire. And some of those questions, if you answer no to it, we're on the email chain. I see the carrier come back and say,
Yeah.
no, we're not writing that policy. Why
Right.
don't you have MFA on your remote logins? I'm not writing the policy if you don't have it.
Right.
Well, okay, I guess
I guess
we're
they,
gonna get
they've
that in
paid a
mind.
lot. They've paid a lot of ransom attacks the last year or two, so they're finally
Yeah, I think
like,
things have gotten
yeah.
crazier where now they're saying, no, listen, there's a baseline of
Yeah.
security we need, and it's great what's in that questionnaire. Yeah, it's all the things we've been saying for so long. So, yay, security is really people really have to take care of security because it's important.
Esther, were you saying something?
I was just gonna say, I'm so glad you mentioned remote because Jay's got a question that has to do with remote work. So I really want to make sure we address it. And then I want to get to Richard's because they've both been waiting really patiently for a while.
Okay.
Jay, whenever you're ready, you can unmute yourself. We'd love to hear your question. And in case you don't have mic access, Jay, I'll read the question in the meantime. Can you ask to address how this insurance protects remote workers? So I guess Jay's question is around insurance for remote workers and how that might be different or the same as regular. And I think that's addressed to you, but.
Yeah,
There's
definitely. I
actually
mean,
question.
yes.
Sorry, to jump in. It's an interesting question because it also takes into account what's going on in the cloud age. So I'm really curious to hear this answer. There's remote workers who are connecting to on-prem resources, and then there's remote workers who are just using everything in the cloud. So I'm curious to hear what this is going to be.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, cyber insurance is definitely intended to cover remote workers as well. And when you're working remote, you're still working within the same digital infrastructure. It doesn't have to be necessarily that we're all in one office at one location. It's meant to cover a company's entire digital infrastructure. So whether it's remote or it is something that happens at the home base, it's equally covered.
Nice.
All right.
Awesome. And Richard, I'm gonna come over to you. Let me just unmute you. Give me a moment. Lots of people there you go.
Thank you. My question had to do with just the overall rates of claim denials in the industry. I'm assuming it's going up just like premiums are going up just because the risk is shifting. I may be wrong about that, but before you answer that, I would like to follow up on the first question that was asked of a guest. I think his name was Norbert. I think it was misunderstood, but I think I could clarify because I think I know what he was asking about. He was asking about supply chain hacks, basically where a company is doing diligence and they are downloading software, they're downloading virus protections, they're downloading network monitoring and management software, but the virus comes in those updates from their vendor, from their software vendor. This famously happened with SolarWinds last year. And so I think Norbert's question was, does a carrier, and for a standard policy, does a carrier point the policyholder to SolarWinds for relief and let them fight it out with them, or do they pay a claim for the damages?
That's a great question. So there is coverage when we're talking about a virus that affects, and that pertains to a first party coverage. When there's a virus, any sort of virus that infects our system as the policyholder, as the named insured, that is something that is covered under these policies. And that's part of doing business. A lot of times, we don't know. We could be downloading one thing or downloading another thing, and in that process, we're infected with a virus. So an insurance company, a cyber insurance company, is going to look to see how we can. They have the expenses are covered that are involved with getting in there and ridding our computers of these viruses, and helping us implement an antivirus software moving forward. All those expenses are covered, as well as the loss of income under business interruption coverage for our systems being down until we can get things back up and running.
Okay, so hang on. In the SolarWinds attack, SolarWinds had basically remote access to a whole bunch of machines via their software on those machines. The hackers got onto SolarWinds servers, and then when SolarWinds pushed out an update to all those machines got hacked, right? So now we've got SolarWinds, and we've got all the machines that SolarWinds is on. They're not part of SolarWinds company, they're just other companies that SolarWinds is helping out and taking care of. Whose insurance company is stepping in here? Is it SolarWinds, or is it the people that got the bad update?
Well, at that point, it really comes down to, so we see this a lot. Anytime, and we all know, or I shouldn't say we all know, but it's important to consider when these suits happen, everybody and anybody involved is getting sued. So at that point, the claim would be reported to everyone involved, their carriers, and then at that point, it's up to the carriers to duke it out and to say and to do the investigative work in terms of who the claim is going to be tendered to and who is responsible. So that's something that's more on the carrier side of determining who is eventually going to be responsible for the claim.
Okay. And I think that was the crux of the question, was it not?
Yeah, yes, it was. And then the last question, and it looks like we're probably out of time, was just what do the denial rates look like lately, industry wide or for BNC?
I can't say that I could tell you, industry wide. I personally haven't seen too many claims denied, only because when I'm working with my clients, what I tend to do is I like to schedule a call or schedule a meeting so that we can go through the application line by line to make sure that we're filling it out in good faith. But so I haven't seen too many claim denials. Obviously, that's not the only reason for a claim denial. It can be because, like for other instances, like an act of war or just something that's not covered by the policy. I personally have not seen too many claim denials.
You think it would be less than 5%?
I'm sorry?
You think it would be less than 5%?
If I had to guess, I would say I would say no. I would say I mean, I can't say for sure, but 5% seems like a low number to me. I would say if I had to guess, I would say greater, but I can't say for sure.
Is there a website that actually, like, if I'm a business owner, which I am, and we're looking for insurance, you get a broker, someone you trust, whatever it is, and then it's like we have carrier A, carrier B, this is their price, right? Is there like a website that you could go to that says this insurance company, clients are happy to work with, they pay their claims, they're reasonably priced, or like a star rating kind of website for carriers? Does that exist?
I'm sure it does exist. I couldn't tell you specifically,
Okay.
but yeah, obviously, and another thing along those lines, it is public information in terms of the financial size and solvency of all these carriers. You can look them up. So a lot of times, let's say you're a company that's engaged in a little bit more risky work.
Right.
You might have to. There's a distinction between carriers that are what's called admitted and non-admitted. So the non-admitted carriers are basically not regulated by the FDIC. So that let's say you were with a carrier that was a non-admitted carrier because you had no choice when you're going to obtain insurance terms. Admitted carriers will not entertain your business, so you're forced to essentially go to a specialty market, a high risk market. There are carriers, the non-admitted carriers, if they go bankrupt or they go insolvent, it's important to note that a lot of times you will not get your money. There can be claims that are unpaid because if that carrier goes insolvent. But an admitted carrier, and this is all public information, And you can, a good website to check for that, it's called AM Best. If you look up ambest.com, that's how you can search the ratings on all insurance carriers.
Okay.
So that's a good resource to utilize.
Esther, you have anything else?
I think this is a good place to wrap up. I mean, there are more questions coming in, but what we can do is I actually dropped Ian's contact information as well as ours at RCS into the chat. So you can definitely grab it from there. You can also visit our website, rcsprofessional.com, hit the contact us tab, and I'll make sure if you wanted to connect with Ian, you do, or us, we're happy to connect you over. I also wanted to add that we're offering a free risk assessment. So if anybody on here wants another opinion or just to kind of check themselves and make sure that there's no gaps, or if there are, at least come up with some kind of plan, reach out to us. We're happy to set that up. And I believe Ian as well is offering a free sort of consulting call or meeting to go over your current setup and see if he can help get you on the right things if you're not already. Ian, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, definitely. Anybody who whether it's an existing insurance portfolio that does not include cyber insurance and you'd like to explore those options, or an existing cyber policy and you're not sure based on the operations of your company if it's the right fit, or you're just not getting the tender loving care that you need, definitely reach out to me. You'll have my contact information, and I'm happy to offer my services to anybody that might need them.
Thank you so much, Ian. And I do see there's more questions coming in. I apologize, we can't address them today. Please reach out to Ian. He'll be happy to answer them, one-to-one. Our next event is in 1 month. We're doing a LinkedIn Live, which we're really, really excited about. It's going to be another live event on LinkedIn. It's about the 3 key IT trends to drive growth in your organization. So March 24th, info's on our website and our events tab. And unless Norman, Jeff, you have anything to add, I think we're wrapping up. So Ian, thank you.
I wanted to thank Ian, actually. Ian, this was great. It was very informative for me, to be able to find out all of this stuff about cyber insurance, because we've always heard the word cyber insurance, and we always ask our clients if they've got it, but to hear what it really does and how it works is great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And thanks, Esther, too, putting this together.
Thank you all.
Preventative IT, get your IT straight, because 1, they're not going to write you the policy, and 2, you don't want to be in a position where you're dealing with the cyber.
Save yourself the headache.
Yeah, save yourself the headache. Get your IT straight. Get your security straight.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Ian, thanks again for joining us. Take care. Thank you all.
Thanks, Esther.
Thank you, everybody.